represent parts of Spartanburg, Greenville, and Union counties. To my right, Senator Brad Hutto from Orangeburg, and to my left, Senator Tom Corbin, Senator from Greenville, who represents parts of Greenville and Spartanburg. And we have Ms. Jane Schuler, our staff attorney for this committee. I'd just like to welcome y'all here today. We're here to discuss Senate Bill S-92. The lead sponsor of this bill is in the audience, Senator Tom Davis from Beaufort. And I'm going to turn it over briefly to Ms. Schuler to introduce the bill and make a few comments for us.
S-92, sponsored by Senator Davis, Shane Martin, Senator Burden, Senator Griggs and Bryant, is known as the National Defense Authorization Act, NDAA of 2013, and it would nullify two sections of the NDAA of 2012, sections 1021 and 1022, which allow the President to detain suspected terrorists without a trial. This bill alleges that those particular sections threaten the liberty, security, and well-being of South Carolinians. And this bill would seek to ensure that South Carolina agencies, officers, and employees, including any members of the South Carolina Military Department, which includes the South Carolina National Guard, do not aid in the execution of those particular sections by prohibiting any state agency of a political subdivision, officer, or employee acting in a military capacity or employee of a local detention facility from engaging in any activity that would aid an agency of the U.S. Armed Forces in execution of the NDAA of 2012 in investigating, prosecuting, or detaining any U.S. citizen. I would say that included in your folder is the particular provisions of the federal law that's cited in S-92. There's also a side-by-side that I have done that compares our bill to what Virginia passed in 2012, Act 792, which is a little bit different, so you can see the comparison. And at the back of the bill summary, there are several states that are in the process of looking at nullification acts of the NDAA. Arizona passed one which was vetoed by the governor, but I had those particular statutes in the back so that you can see in comparison. And we have with us the Adjutant General, who needs to be at another meeting, so if we could respectfully take him first today.
All right, I was going to let Senator Davis go first, but since the General has somewhere to go, Senator Davis, we'll let the Adjutant General go first. And, yes, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you. Senator Davis, I appreciate you yielding on that. Thanks so much. Mr. Chairman and gentlemen, the South Carolina Military Department neither endorses nor opposes this bill as is written, but we have.
Can I stop you just 1 second? I forgot to ask. Could you state just your name and title?
Yes,
and for the subcommittee, for the record?
I'm Major General Robert Livingston, Jr., and I am the Adjutant General for the state of South Carolina. And I'm not pushing the button, and now the button is pushed. Of course, I got a big mouth, so normally that carries. I am the Adjutant General for the state of South Carolina. Okay.
Yes, sir. That's all. We just need to.
Thank you. Thank you. We neither oppose nor support this bill from the military department. The military department would do what our elected officials ask us to do. I do have a concern about this bill, though, in that there is a confusing section in there where it refers to our official duties, the military department of South Carolina. And it takes a little bit of understanding the dynamics that we have between the National Guard and the federal government. As you know, our National Guard is a dual role entity. We are a state entity until we are needed, and then we are federalized to become a national entity and to serve as reserve forces of the Army and the Air Force. Over the last 12 years, the National Guard has provided anywhere from 35 to 40% of the forces necessary to prosecute the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. And in fact, at least 2 times we were over 50% of the boots on the ground, to include the Army and the Marines in Iraq, and many more times in Afghanistan. So we're a very significant portion of the Federal Reserve System. And that is very appropriate because if you look at the history of our country, it has always been a collection of states that give resources to the federal government to prosecute the mission of the federal government. And one of the major missions of the federal government is self-defense of our nation. And it is very correct that the states contribute military forces to our common defense. In fact, there's one of the large discussions we're having prior to World War II, the National Guard could be argued to have been at the basis of our defense because we had a relatively small standing force. We used that structure to ramp up very quickly in World War II and successfully prosecuted that war. After that period of time, there became a large debate between a standing army and going back to a militia and a National Guard. For a short period of time, we went to a standing army and lost the connection that we had with the communities of the United States, and therefore lost a connection with the war, which was some of the issues that we had during Vietnam. After that period of time, again, we had a national discussion of the roles of the National Guard. The National Guard was put into a very prominent role during the 90s, and after 9/11, successfully executed their mission as we're doing today. There is another discussion going on in Washington about the roles of the National Guard. We believe that the National Guard will once again become the basis of defense because of our connection to the community and because of the cost effectiveness of this force, because it is a dual-use force. It's much less expensive than a standing active force, and it is available for state use in the event of a state emergency. If we look at this legislation and we say the state military department, South Carolina military department, in their official duties, as we go through this discussion in Washington, it may be perceived as in their official duties may be that the state is trying to tell the federal government what they can do with federal forces once the National Guard is mobilized. I think we can have discussions about the mobilization itself, but once we become mobilized under the federal government, we come under a different set of laws. And I don't want this bill to create confusion about our resolve that the National Guard should be the basis of our defense and therefore give the states control over the basis of our defense for our entire nation. What I would prefer to see in this bill would it be clarified that it would be the South Carolina Military Department in their state active duty role as opposed to their official duties. Because official duties could be interpreted to mean many things and be more than the state active duty.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
Sure.
Senator from Orangeburg.
So, thank you for being here. If we don't pass this, you could be putting members of the Guard in a situation to be defined a direct order of their command, and for which they could get court-martialed.
If we are placed in a federal role, we would not come under state law, and it would create a certain amount of confusion within the ranks of the National Guard. If we are federalized, we are bound by the Constitution to make sure that we follow legal orders, and we are legally, as officers, responsible to make sure that the orders that we receive are legal.
So the flip side of that is, if we don't put this in and somebody did follow their federal orders, they could be committing a crime in South Carolina. That is, as we look at the current agreement between the federal government and the state of South Carolina, any military forces that come into South Carolina would be under the command and control of a joint force leader, which would be out of the South Carolina National Guard in state duty, and therefore reporting to the governor.
So any federal forces that